I'm very, very happy to be here today. I have been thrilled by what I've learned of the Waldorf approach and teaching from the heart and trying to understand life from the heart. I feel that the world needs more heart energy. We've done a very good job of understanding things with our minds. It reminds me of this story when Gandhi was once asked by a journalist, "What do you think about Western civilization?" And Gandhi said, "Well, I think it would be a good idea." And of course, there's a lot that's wonderful about Western civilization, but we know that we need to bring both of them together, the heart and the mind, in understanding and appreciating nature. I have a friend who teaches in the American Southwest, and he asked his children to draw a picture of themselves on a large piece of paper. The children did as they were told. They drew their legs, they drew the trunk of their body and their arms, and they covered the whole piece of paper with a drawing of themselves. Well, my friend also had some Navajo children in his class, and they drew themselves differently, because on this large piece of paper, the children just drew themselves about this big. Then they drew the dry desert wash, the canyon walls, and the clouds in the sky, because they felt everything around them was just as much a part of who they were as their own arms and legs. And isn't this what we're really trying to do, is help people to expand their sense of self, to include all of life, humans, but all expressions of life. And of course, that's a very subtle thing to try to convey, but when we have that as our intent and we add creativity and we work with students, we know we can share those kinds of feelings and understanding. And that is what really, well, there's the image of a puppet, a string puppet, and the strings go to its feet, its hands, and all over its body. And if you pick it up by the feet, that string puppet comes up kind of jumbled and tangled up, doesn't it? But if you pick it up by the head, then the puppet just comes up perfectly like this. Well, to work at helping to develop the attitudes, a sense of reverence of all life, I was very interested to see in the early 1900s, there was a American nature study movement, and they said that the highest product of education was sensitiveness to life, and trying to help children have a sense of empathy. And there's been a lot of wise people throughout the ages. It's just that we don't listen to those wise voices all the time, do we? And so we're going to see much more of an impact in people's lives if they have that sense of expansive awareness, because we can't educate everybody on every issue, but sensitive people will make sensitive decisions. I live in the Ananda village, and we have a school there called Living Wisdom Schools. And Swami Kriyananda, the founder of our community, he wrote a beautiful book called Education for Life. And he described maturity as the ability to relate to others' realities and not only to one's own. And I thought how wonderful of a definition that is for environmental education, but all of life. We're trying to, in our social skills, we're trying to have a greater sense of who we are and what we're a part of. Because referring back to that story of the Navajo children that drew a picture of themselves, what is the greatest lesson that nature has to teach us? That we're a part of something much larger than ourselves. And once we have a sense that we are a part of everything, then we treat everything with a sense of reverence. And we see the sacred in life. Lao Tzu said that he didn't say environmental protection, he didn't use those words, but he said that's a result of really feeling yourself in all things. And how do we feel the environment in ourselves? Well, Henry David Thoreau gave us a good tip when he said that the secret to knowing God and the secret to knowing nature is to have a sense of self-forgetfulness. And where we're absorbed in nature, and that's why using the senses with children, where they can just be really absorbed in their world. And when there's no thought of self separate from the experience, you're just absorbed in the experience. And with the blind walk, where a lot of people, we have all used blind activities before. And what happens when a person is going on a blind walk? Well, they're exploring the world through their other senses, aren't they? And it becomes very intensified. But what also happens is the mind becomes quiet. And when the mind is quiet, that means the heart begins to open, and we have more of an intuitive experience of life, because we aren't thinking so much, and we're just more experiencing on a level of being. And so the activities that I designed actually were first out of desperation. I'd like to tell you about my first nature experience. It was during the 1970s, and it was during the time of the Vietnam War. And a lot of people were very concerned about the war, and I started my major in university on international relations. But then I very quickly found that countries had self-interest. I remember the Premier Bismarck, he said, "I don't want war, but I want to make sure our country gets what it wants." And then I realized that it's going to be hard to have world peace. And then I thought, but there's a peace in nature. I remember being in the Yosemite wilderness in the evening by a lake, and it was just so expansive and so still. And I said to myself, this is what I could share with people. This peace, this sense of serenity, that's real. And so I changed my major to nature awareness, or how to find God in nature. And I was the first major in that category. And so I had just changed my major, and I was interested in education and joined the local Audubon chapter. And because of my interest in education, they appointed me education director. And the next week, I was out leading a group of 7 and 8-year-olds, and without any kind of training, and except for my time in the wilderness. Well, it was a rural school, and we left the safe 4 walls of this classroom, and we started walking down this dirt road through the forest, and that was my first mistake. Because the children, they ran for a half a mile, and I ran behind them. And there were all these beautiful trees, and I thought that mere exposure would do it, and it didn't. We stopped for lunch. They had lunch, and then like barnyard horses, they ran all the way back to the classroom. And I felt that my highest ideals weren't met that day. And that's when I started looking around for another way, a way that focuses children, that makes learning dynamic, that engages them, that takes care of a lot of the discipline problems, a way where you can create a sense of momentum. There's the amount of restlessness in modern society is just so strong. The pace of TV changes every couple seconds, and when we're teaching children or adults, we have this momentum of activity that we're trying to overcome. And how can we create, as teachers, a momentum in the other direction?